Pteridophyte. The pteridophyte is the first successful land plant and it is the first vascular plant. Why I'm saying first vascular plant? Because the bryophyta basically they do not have the vascular system or the vascular plant. So they were not the vascular plant. While pteridophyta is the first vascular plant and the bryophyta was the first embryophyte. So this is the main difference. Pteridophyte is the first vascular plant and it is the first successful land plant. First successful land plant. Also, it is also known as the reptile or botanical snake of the plant kingdom. Reptile or botanical snake of plant kingdom. Snake of plant kingdom. Okay, so let's see what are the different features or the key characteristic of the pteridophyte. So pteridophyte basically they are considered to be the first plant to be evolved on the land and it is speculated that the life usually began in the ocean and through the millions of the years of the evolution the life slowly adapted to the dry land and among the first to be adapted to be a truly plant that live on the land were the pteridophytes. So that is why it is known as the first successful land plant. They are the cryptogams, seedless, seedless, and vascular tissue. Means the vascular tissue or the vascular system has been originated from the pteridophytes only. And they are the embryophyte also and Pteridophyte basically are the seedless plant, but they reproduce mainly through the spore. Okay, mainly through the spore. And the plant body, the body structure basically have the true roots, they have a true stem and the leaves. And the main body of the pteridophyte is the sporophyte, which has the diploid nature that is 2N and there is no thalloid means their body is differentiated into the root, stem, and the leaves. That is why there is no thallated. Means all are well differentiated, and also the roots, the stem, and the leaves all are the 2N, that is the diploid. Okay. Now the question is why it is called as the reptile or the botanical snake of the plant kingdom, because as the amphibian basically from the amphibian, the reptiles were evolved, okay, in the animal kingdom. Similarly, the pteridophytes have been evolved, or we can say they have been deviated or evolved from the bryophytes in the plant kingdom. That is why it is known as a reptile or the botanical snakes of the plant kingdom, as the reptile evolved from the amphibia in the animal kingdom, just like the pteridophyte evolved from the bryophytes. We know that the body is differentiated into the root, stem, and the leaves, and the root is basically the adventitious one. Okay, adventitious root is present, and the stem is usually the underground stem and underground stem, and which is usually known as the rhizome. Rhizome. And the leaves are basically they are a small size or they are of the large size. If the small size leaves are present, they are known as the microphyll. And if the large size leaves are present, they are known as the macrophyll. Okay. For example, in the case of the fern, they have the large size leaves and the young leaves in the ferns are basically quiet. They do not have gametophyte means no gametophyte mean they are not dependent on the gametophyte stage. Usually what happens, the sporophyte, that is a 2N diploid stage, is dependent on the gametophyte stage, but in the pteridophyte it is not so. So if no gametophyte is, no flower is present, then the leaves usually comes into the play for the fertilization. So they have the fertile leaves, and fertile leaves are known as the sporophytes. Okay, the fertile leaf are known as the sporophylls, and these sporophylls usually have the sporangia present in them, which usually consist of the many spores. And the sporangium is basically the structure, we can say, in which the spores are usually formed, and these spores are usually the homosporous, or they are the heterosporous. Homo means they have the same kind of the spores, or hetero means two different type of the spores are usually present, and these sporangia are usually present on the abaxial surface. Abaxial surface means they are present on the lower side of the leaves, and the sporangia basically consists of the spores which are disseminated, and they are released and get and the spores are released and they germinate into the gametophyte. The sporangia basically they are produced in groups also, uh, sometimes on the sporophyll only, and the leaves that bear the sporangia are termed as the sporophyll. The tip of the leaf basically they have the tendency to curl toward the inside to protect the vulnerable growing part. Okay, and this growing part is usually observed in the fern case where the tip of the leaf is usually curled like this. Okay. This is the leaf, and the new leaf is generally curved. The sex organ are basically the multicellular, means the male sex organ are known as the antheridium, which is multicellular, and as well as they are flagellated, and the female sex organ or the gametes are known as the archegonia. Archegonia. They show the alternation of the generation, the sporophyte generation and the gametophyte generation are basically present, and they are observed in the pteridophyte. And the diploid sporophyte is the main structure, or we can say it is the main plant body. Diploid sporophyte, that is the 2N, although the gametophyte state is also present. Okay, which is N. So generally what happens, the sporophyll which is 2N or the diploid state, it is the main body of the pteridophyte, is the main body, and they have these are the leaves which are having the sporangia in them. So they have the sporangia in them. The sporangia are usually present on the abaxial side, that is on the lower side of the leaves, and the sporangia usually consist of the spores, and when it undergo the spores, okay, are spores are usually present, and the spores are only formed after the meiosis. Okay, so the spores here, the 2N condition, the spores are the haploid. Okay, so once the spores are they are germinated to form the gametophyte, which are haploid condition. That is the N. So this is the life cycle, we can say, or general developmental stages of the pteridophyte. The classification of the pteridophyte is basically done on the basis of the spore, though because they are the two different types of the spores are usually found in the pteridophyte. The first one is the homosporous. As the name suggests, they have the same kind of the spore, or the single type of the spores is usually present. Okay, and if the two spores are present, it means that they form the gametophyte, means that spores generally germinate to form the gametophyte. So on the basis of the spore, the gametophyte is formed, we can say. So the homosporous is a condition in which they have the single type of the spores, and they germinate to form the gametophyte, which is bisexual in the nature or monoecious in the nature. It means they have the male sex organ as well as the female sex organ. They are generally produced in the same body or in the prothallus. Prothallus means it is a condition in which the male as well as the female sex organ are usually present in the same body. And they have the proto-androus condition, means the female sex organ may develop or may produce before the female sex organ. Okay, so usually the gametophyte stage is dependent on the sporophyte and vice versa, but here it is not dependent on the gametophyte. It is a free living gametophyte. It is a free living gametophyte. Okay, free living gametophyte. And the examples of this is homosporous pteridophyte are the ferns, equisetum, the xylotum, and lycopsida. In these forms, the spores are usually present on the one side and they develop into the gametophyte that produce both the archegonia, that is a female reproductive structure, and amphidia, that is the male reproductive structure. The second one is the heterosporous pteridophyte. Okay, the heterosporous pteridophyte, as the name suggests, they have the two different type of the spores based upon the size, means microspore and the megaspore. As the name suggests, the microspores are the small in the size, while the megaspores are the large in the size. And these microspores, they develop and germinate into the male gametophyte, while the megaspore it germinate into the female gametophyte. Female gametophyte. Okay. So this is the difference between the homosporous and the heterosporous condition. And there is a